it's weird. I've been saying this for a while now, and I know people are like, well, it hasn't quite happened yet. But it's not good, right? Studios are dying everywhere, and sort of the it's been a really sad time in the games industry. Let's put it this way. I work as a consultant, and so I do two jobs, right? Like I help studios sort of like launch their game, and then the other thing is I help them get funding. And that helping them get funding, I do in two ways, just to be transparent with everybody. I help them make their pitch deck and like sort of like communicate their game, figure out what kind of budget, what kind of timeline, that kind of stuff. And then sometimes if I come across a really good game that just can't get funding, I work as an agent. And an agent is just basically somebody who like represents the game, goes to publishers, talks to them, and then gets the deal. And then I take a percentage off the top, right? Like, so they get the deal, I take a percentage, and then everybody goes home with their life. And it's been really rough. Like I had this game, incredible game, and this one got signed. It's gonna come out, and I'll mention it on my Blue Sky when it's that game. But it's like very simple, like super replayable, super fun, adorable, but just like really like clever, smart gameplay. And it was like 80 grand. Now, just to make clear, 80 grand in games industry numbers is nothing.
Yeah.
Right. That's one or
That's
two
be a
people
super small team, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's like two people and like 2.5 people, working for less than a year. Right. So 80 grand is nothing. It took me 9.5 months to find any publisher that would take it. And that's the crazy part. I would go to the publishers and I would send them the game, and they would go, "Oh my God, mate, this is incredible. I got addicted for 2 weeks. Didn't play anything else. Like, go fuck yourself for wasting my time with this. This is incredible. Somebody's going to pick it up, but it's not us."
Yeah.
Which is fine if one said it. Everybody said it. Because the publishers can't get money. Because somewhere in this whole COVID hangover, investors figured out that games are really, really dumb to invest in.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like economically, this is a terrible
I have a great
idea.
follow-up for you, Rami.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Is that why they came to streamers and content creators?
Yeah.
So, well, I got something interesting to add in here. So, as you guys know, I joined with Andreessen Horowitz as an A16Z scout a couple years ago. And that was around the time when AAA was like starting to fail. The idea was, let's shotgun fund some indies. Let's get the next Power World. Let's get the next Stardew Valley kind of thing, right? So over the last couple of years, I did a ton of invested almost $500,000, bunch of different companies. Not only have many of them already failed, but over the years, as the A16Z has been doing something called speed runs. And speed runs is when they pick up to 50 companies, and then they literally fund them directly and then go from there. You look at the cohorts, you look at the speed runs that have happened over the years, they went from like mostly gaming and gaming adjacent, and then every one of them gets less. And now the most recent one is all about AI tools. It's all about game production. There's stuff in there that isn't even tangentially related to gaming. Like it is very telling when some of the biggest investment companies went in specifically to try to go after games. And now over time, we're seeing them very much phase into like different areas, while still keeping the general, concept, but like the money is not going into that, just like Rami said.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Like the investment in games is in a weird spot, because basically what happened is COVID happened. Everybody was at home. So everybody was spending on money. So every investor out there was like, oh my God, numbers go up. And then you're a publicly traded company, so you have to make your shareholders happy. So they went to all the executives of these companies and they went like, hey, number goes up. Is number going to continue to go up? And all the executives went like, absolutely. Just at no point will this ever come crashing down. It came crashing down. All the investors went like, wait a minute, games don't make infinite money, and we're still there. Right? So we're now at that point where over the years, like, there's still amazing games happening because everybody in the industry is stubborn as shit. Everybody's here because they want to be making games. Like, so they're trying anyway, and we're still getting amazing games. But if you're sort of paying attention, it's fewer and fewer. There's less argument about what the game of the year is, because there's 3 options nowadays. You look back 10 years ago, there would be real discussions about that. But now Game of the Year is just kind of like that. Oh yeah, that one, obviously, right? Like, is Blueprints going to be a Game of the Year contender? Blueprints is going to be a Game of the Year contender, most likely, right? Like, it's a big conversation, but it's going to win some awards. We can be sure of that. That you wouldn't go in April and go like, oh yeah, Game of the Year for sure. Like,
Sure.
what else is coming?
Yeah.
You know? Like,
So one interesting thing well, hold on. Actually, no, I'm going to come back to that. I just realized it's going to take us in an entirely different direction. I'm going to wait on that.
I have a question for Rami.
yeah, go.
Upsides to anything, perhaps?
I mean-
I remember.
Go.
Well, I was going to say, okay, so one thing, when game devs started, right? Game devs didn't know gaming was going to make money. Passion project. So that's when we saw, especially the first 5-10 years of game dev, we saw people just trying new stuff, a lot of iteration, a lot of them kind of just doing it because they loved doing it. Then we saw all the people that love to make money get into it. We got the Sonys, we got the EAs. Now we have them doing exactly what we were just talking about. They're making Concords. All the people that came in making money are like, what the hell? You just literally threw away $60 million. Like, how are we supposed to make money in this? I'm going to textiles. I'm going to import export. So now we're seeing the industry almost go back to where now the people that are going into making games are the people that are fundamentally more passionate about the product and far less about potentially the monetary infusion that product will get them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a bad thing?
I mean, yes, because they still need money, right? Like, ultimately, we're still going to need money. Like, so here's the thing. When I started, right, just for context, this was 2009. Was my first time in the games industry. You know what a game budget was back then? It was like 30 grand. Like, my first game was 10, right? And it was because we were super okay with living on noodles, but the quality expectation of a game was so much lower. And then we were Devolver Digital's first published game, Serious Sam the Random Encounter, right? So Devolver Digital didn't exist yet, right? Like, that was coming up. The App Store was brand new. Steam, people had finally stopped being pissed off at Steam for existing, because that was a big thing when Steam came out. Everybody hated Steam.
Everyone hated it. Yeah.
So we were at that point where, like, game budgets were basically just like, as long as you can eat and maybe pay a little bit of rent, it's okay. We're good, right? But then Devolver kind of came in and then started funding games, and then they started spending money on marketing. Back in the days, marketing was just like, wear a pink suit to PAX, and then people will ask you, why do you wear the pink suit? And then you go, well, so you would talk to me after you checked out my game Antichamber, which is literally how Antichamber's marketing worked for anybody who played Antichamber.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Budgets kept going up, and they kept going up. And yes, we could pay ourselves a better salary, but like, the amount of people that are part of a games team, the amount of people working on a game, the amount of time spent on the game went up and up and up, to the point where, as a passion project, trying to hit the quality bar for a game nowadays is basically unaffordable unless you're wealthy. Like, if you're rich as shit, you can absolutely go do this. But
when you say the quality bar, what are you defining by that? Like, are you talking about like how it presents or bugs?
How it presents, how it plays, whether it's buggy, something like that. Like, and there's been a bit of a counter movement in like co-op games. You have something like a Lethal Company or a Repo. Like, the games are janky as shit.
Yeah.
Janky is actually doing quite well right now. But it's also a very particular aesthetic, right? Like, it's a particular type of game. Blueprints, not very janky. Very polished. 8 years of work, right? That game is 8 years of just like obsessive attention to detail. Balatro, for how simple it looks, that game has so much detail and work on like the tiniest detail, the minute of like how cards like interact and disappear and appear. So it's this weird thing where expectations are just at a point where you basically need 100 grand, 200 grand to make a game, even if you're making a simple game. But Balatro also took quite well, right? So it is that idea of like, can you flip a coin if you have to fund 2 years of your life to buy the coin, right? And so that's kind of a scary place to be at. What I do agree with, though, so I was at Reboot last week. It's a conference in Croatia, long story, lovely conference. And They asked me to do a keynote, and but it was kind of like uneven. We didn't know if it was going to happen. It got canceled in the end. But the keynote I wanted to give is all publishers are cowards. And they were just like, yeah, probably don't. Although they didn't cancel it because of the talk. They would let me give that talk if I wanted to, but there was just no space for that anymore.
Can you say instead that all publishers are cautious? Can we say that instead?
No.
Did you say
the
You can do it
coward?
if you
Maybe
change it.
cowards.
all publishers are powered.
Yeah,
Can we workshop that?
Yeah, no, I wanted to say all publishers are cowards. And the argument I wanted to make is that right now, more than ever, safety is going to kill publishers. Right? Trying to look at the industry and go like, oh my God, Balatro made a bunch of money. We want games like Balatro. Fuck no.
Right.
We don't want games like Balatro. We have Balatro. Balatro is the best Balatro. Let's not out Balatro. We're good. Like, we have it. Like, it's that thing where it's like somebody found like out of 1,000 threads hanging from the ceiling, they found like the one thread that pulled down a $20 million bag. And now everybody wants to hang from that thread. And I'm like, no, that has support for one dude who is making a practice project that turned into Balatro. You can't hang the entire games industry from that shit.
Right.
What we need is you to fund other shit than Balatro, right? But all the publishers are careful because the investors are careful, so they don't have a lot of money. They can't make a lot of. But right now, like, all that we're hearing is like, we want weird multiplayer games that allow you to like do dumb stuff with your friends, and it's effectively just Discord but interactive.
Yeah. Right.
That we like. Right, we want our Fall Guys, we want our repos, we want our Lethal Cup. It's just
Schedule Ones.
Schedule One, right?
Dude, I would love to see a AAA take on like Repo, because I think those two are at odds at each other.
Yeah,
right.
no.
I want to see what that piece of shit looks like.
That would be like, I want to see a AAA indie game.
Yeah,
it just, you can't do that. It wouldn't be it.
Jank on purpose.
Yeah, no,
I love
that's the feedback. They like go to the C-suite and they're like, it needs to be a bigger piece of shit.
Right.
I think the closest we ever got to that was the Rick and Morty game. And I think that's only because it could possibly get away. The thing is like, the problem is AAA has to be high price. High price would never allow for that kind of ridiculousness. It wouldn't allow for the bugs that make the funny stories. You know, it wouldn't allow for the bad graphics that make you laugh. Like, when we've talked about this so often, where when you price a AAA, it comes with all the baggage of expectations that a AAA has. And then more importantly, all the expectations of the investors on how much it's going to make. And that's way too much of a risk to like have a low quality product at any kind of a price point. You could say price it lower, but then you're talking about brand expectations and everything. So it becomes,
Or alternatively, you're Bethesda, in which case you do get away with it.
True.
That works.
Yeah, Bethesda's, I guess, the one. I guess that. I guess I was describing a Bethesda game.
Well, see, they can do that with other products. Then they have 76, which like counterbalances that.
Yeah,
so,
You can push too far.
True.
No, but so that's one, right? Like, that's where all the publishers want to put funding. The second one is infinitely replayable games that have roguelike mechanics but are not a roguelike. So Balatro, Blueprints, like anything that is run-based, infinitely replayable, and easy to talk about because you know who like those games? Y'all.
Streamers.
Gamers.
Sure, both. Streamers, right?
Remy's like, no, I was trying to say white guys, but you know, whatever, that's cool. Sure, gamers, streamers, whatever you guys want.
People with beards was what I was getting at.
I was going to say losers.
That pause is going to be studied for years to come from Rami. What did the pause mean exactly? What was Rami trying to say by that short intermission?
Streamers, because that is infinite marketing, right? As long as streamers keep playing game, then game has marketing, then people buy game, right? That kind of thing. And then 3 is niche genres that are ready for a little bit of a shakeup. which is a strategy,
Yep.
very particular sort of like, but those are all very hard. So they basically need finished games before they'll fund them.
I am actually working on a game that's doing exactly what you're talking about right now. Enough. If you remember Myth: The Fallen Lords from back in the day, I'm working on a game called War Torn, which is microizing RTS gameplay in a roguelite format.
Sure.
So it's like it's kind of exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
All the checkboxes, right?
Yep.
But that's kind of the thing. The thing with the current industry is that everybody's trying to replicate the things that are already successful and not making space for the shit that isn't. And we need the stuff that isn't because we already have the best game in those other genres. Like,
Or they made
Balatro-
genres in some cases.
right, Balatro is done. Like we can have a few games that have like a fraction of the success of Balatro, but it's very unlikely that something will out Balatro. Right. So this has been an issue for a very long time. Obviously, if a hit came out, everybody wants to fund another one of those. But it was never that they only want to fund that. And that's kind of where we are right now, is they only want to fund that. And then the second part of this is sort of the second part why I wanted to call them cowards is it is a little bit of inside baseball. But the way the industry works is game developers have stupid ideas, right? So we just come up with like, what if X, Y, Z? Then we start working on that. And then what we do is we make a prototype. Now, a prototype, I don't want you imagining an alpha or anything like that. I want you to imagine a bunch of squares, cubes, circles on a screen, no effects whatsoever. If you've ever looked up like something like a combat sandbox or something like that, just like it only proves that it when you press the buttons on the stick, the thing works. Right, and you kind of get to like your core systems, and it's this very bland, very boring version of your game. Usually purely mechanics or purely vibes, right? Like a writing example or a mechanical example or whatever it is, just a thing that proves it out. And then you do some mock-ups for your art, and you implement some of that art in your prototype so that you can show that, and we call that a beautiful corner. So in games, you'll do a prototype and you'll put a beautiful corner in your game, and it's just like a corner with like proper assets. And then you go to some publishers and you say, listen, hey, we can build this out to a vertical slice or a full video game. How much confidence do you have? And then the publisher goes, okay, you know what? We'll fund you up until vertical slice. You'll get X amount of money. If we like it at that point, we get the first right to buy the full game. Right? That's how it used to work. Now, publishers are like, okay, listen, that looks great, but we're not going to fund that until you're much further along. So come back when you're a bit further. But the point of that transaction is developers make stupid shit. The publisher takes the risk, and then the publisher gains the benefit. So they get 100% of revenue, 70% of revenue, then 50% of revenue, depending on how much money we make. They get a smaller and smaller percentage of the revenue that's coming in. So they'll start at 100. They take everything, right?
Especially to recoup.
Until they,
Yeah.
to recoup, to get their investment back. And then when they hit that number, it goes to 70 or 50 or whatever. But that means that developers are no longer making video games. We're making fucking advertisements. We're making vertical slices. We're not making games anymore. So every time a publisher buys a video game, we have to start from scratch because we built it like a piece of shit. That just, like that thing where it just like, as long as it stays standing while the people are looking at it, it's fine. But if they turn around and then it collapses, that's fine. That's the version we have to build because most of us are poor as shit. Developers don't have a lot of money. So like now with money coming in later and later, it's terrifying because there's incredible games that just need like $100,000 to get from where they are to a vertical slice.
That's always been like I think you just answered a question I've always had. Like, it's a minor question, but like when you hear something that it was like a 7-year, 8-year, 9-year passion project or whatever like that, is that the reason why it takes, because they have to give them a full product before the publisher will like put funding on it?
Yeah, so they'll be working on the site, they'll have their job, and then they'll work on weekends for like 4 hours a week. That's kind of the best they can do. People that work for like an hour after they came back from work, but like switching your brain into programming brain takes a lot of time. Like you can't just go like, all right, let me just pick up where I was. You have to look at the code and be like, what the fuck was I doing? And then, like 20 minutes later, you're like, oh yeah. And then like an hour later, you're like, well, I should go to bed. So those games take a very long amount of time.
And that's how files get names like fixed _ really fixed _ super fixed.
Yep.
Oh, broken again.
No,
fixed. I
me
mean
and
it.
the programmer that is staying over right now. We were joking about the amount of times we have found our own answers when looking for a Stack Overflow solution. So, you know, when you have a programming issue, sometimes you go to this basically like forum where you can ask programming questions, and you'll put the question, and then you get a result, and you're like, okay, who was the brilliant person that asked this 7 years ago, so that I can now find the answer? And you're like, oh fuck, it's me. And then you scroll down, and you're like, who was the angel that like gave the answer? It's like, oh, it's me 5 hours later after I found the answer. So you're finding your own stuff with like 5 years in between. And you're like, oh, okay. But that's programming, right? Like it's a mess. And so a lot of these games that I'm seeing that need funding, like I see about probably like 100 to 200 pitches every month, right? From developers that are about to go pitching to publishers. And let's be honest, 70% of them are never going to make it. They're just not. They're not at that level. The developer is too young, or the idea is not clear enough, or you can't describe the game in like a short enough sentence that people would like get it. Like if you have to go like, so it's like a XYZ with like this, but then when you do that, then this happens, and that like nobody can describe that, right? But like Balatro, you can sort of like summarize in a sentence. Like all your favorite games, you can probably summarize into a sentence, and if you would type that sentence into Google, you would get that video game, right? So there's a lot of pitches that are effectively just like, yeah, it's a, I don't know, like a roguelike car racing game, and it's like, where what? And it's like, no, that's it. And it's like, oh yeah, that's going to be really tough to sell, right? There needs to be like the flavor, the thing.
It's a roguelike car game like Carmageddon.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Now we're
I
getting
like that. Yeah, so now you have to invest like 3.5 years of your life to build it without any additional like revenue, and then get some people together, because you're probably just a programmer or just an artist or just a designer. You can't do all the other stuff. So somehow you got to pay somebody to do the stuff that you're not good at, but you're not having any income. So the risk stays entirely with you. And so when you think about it, a lot of these indie games that are happening are just happening on pure spite. They're just happening because nobody is investing, and the developers are like, fuck it, I will finish this if it costs me everything, right? But we also have increasingly that audiences, the gamers, right? Like the people that buy games, they buy fewer games because the economy is on fire. The world is fucking expensive. So people are staying with games that are older more and more. There was research that over 50% of gamers buys less than 2 games a year.
I saw that, yeah.
Right?
When in that same report, wasn't it also like they're playing games that are 5 years or older or something like that? Like the most played games are games that were released 5 years ago or some shit?
Right.
Yeah.
Which is Fortnite.
Yeah.
We're literally just talking about Fortnite. We're not like Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox.
Minecraft.
Yeah.
Roblox.
That's an increasing amount of gaming mindshare. So people are buying less games. They're playing more older games, so they have less money, less time. We have less funding on our side, and good ideas keep getting shot down because they're not Balatro. It's creating a bit of a storm out here that I have to add is really depressing. So it was time for me to just get on a stage and go, okay, y'all suck. What I need from you is 5 to 10% of every publisher's budget has to just go to stupid shit. There cannot be any justification. There cannot be any business reason. Just fund stupid shit. Like, this will never work. Fund it. Right? This team has no credits. Fund it. Like, fund it. Fund the crazy, the ambitious, the ridiculous. That this will never work. That nobody will play this. Fund that, because that's what we'll find. Nobody could have looked at Balatro and gone like, oh yeah, this is gonna.
That's gonna make millions. Yeah.
That's like everybody. Like the developer didn't believe it until the week before.
Yeah.
I played the game before it got big. Like it showed up on like a indie game suggestion thing, like I do every week, and I played it and I was like, this was a lot of fun. I liked it a lot. It was good. I had no fucking clue after playing it that it would be so like universally like it's easy to get into. Like all you have to do is know the poker rules, and most people do, or it's easy to pick up and shit like that. I had no idea how much it was gonna blow up like that. But I mean, after playing it, I was like, this is good. I gave it like 7, 8. It's a good game.
Yeah.
Had no idea. No clue. And but to your point, I want to say like that seems like the take the 10 or 15% from publishers and fund crazy shit. It seems like it's a low risk, but if it's rewarded, it's hugely rewarded.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a sound plan.
Right. So 5 to 10% is stupid shit. And then I also want publishers to stop doing the thing where they will fund a developer and then drop them the moment the game comes out.
Right.
Because that is happening all over the place right now. So developers don't even have time to like. If you're wondering why more bugs seem to be happening across releases, is because developers have to stop working on the game months in advance because they have to get that next pitch ready. They have to make sure that if this game doesn't land well, that 100% is until the money gets recouped. So say you spend, say you're doing an average indie game right now, right? Not like a big hit, like sort of like AA, but like indie, like Balatro, kind of like indie. Probably your budget is going to be 250 to 350K, right? So that's 6, 7, 8 people working on the game for about 2.5 years. So 250, 350, right? Now, the rule of thumb, and this is not a hard rule, but rule of thumb is you add to that 50% of that budget for marketing. So say 250 is 125,000 marketing budget, right? Which is insane to me, but okay, $125,000 marketing budget. Then you add about 10 to 15% QA, and then per word in the game, you add 60 cents of localization budget. So the more words you have, the more expensive localization you get, obviously, right? It's about 11 cents per language, and we usually do 5 languages. So, okay. So before you know it, you have an additional 100% on top. So say 350 plus 70% up. So let's say we end up somewhere around 600,000, for that game. So now we're sitting at 600,000. That game has to earn back 600,000, but then the additional 30% Steam cut before the publisher recoups. So now we add 30% on top of that, right? So let's say we're now at 900,000, right? That game has to earn $900,000 in revenue to hit that. Now, we have a trick in the industry called the box slider number. If you take the Steam reviews of any game and you multiply them by about 50, that's about the units that game sold. We check this number every few years, and it's sort of like a.
I was curious what the relationship to reviews to
it's
sales
42
was.
to 46 at the moment. 42 to 46.
That's interesting.
Now, obviously, you have to keep in mind that tells you nothing about the price it was sold at.
Right.
So if you take 42 to 46, we normally do 50% of the normal sales price. So 42 times 46 times the review times half the sales price. That's how much that game worked. Made, by the way. So by the time we're done, you're sitting at how many units do you have to make on a $20,000 video game? On a $20 video game, like you will say we ended up. Where did we end up? 700, 800,000.
Yeah, almost a million.
That amount of money divided by 20 is a fuck ton of units, right? They're just a metric ton of. Until that number is passed, $0 to the developer. Nothing. Now, for most games, you're not going to hit that number for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, if ever at all, right? So the developer just cannot. We just cannot rely on the idea that we're going to get that.
Well, and in this case, it's also important to mention, though, that this is assuming, and this is one of the reasons that so many people are self-publishing, is because they can like bypass a lot of that, and they can like, and then that all of a sudden that Steam thing becomes a portion off what they earn instead of having to eclipse that to earn anything. But no, man, that's Those are scary numbers. Those are, like that's like this industry is broken style numbers in some
Right.
ways. Yeah.
So that's the thing. Our budgets are definitely too high. Don't get me wrong. I agree. But if you're gonna run a publisher, for the love of God, fund some weird shit and don't drop your fucking developers. Like when we ship a game and the game is good and we got 500, 600, 700 reviews, sure, we're not at recoup yet, but please don't let us die. Like fund us. Like give us that extra amount of time to do the bug fixes, right? To stay in community work, to keep talking to our players, to allow us to do updates. Because so many of these games, when they're getting updates after launch, the developers are getting nothing. They're getting $0. Right.
Yeah, they're getting zero and also getting fired the day after the game comes out.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
So I got 3 quick questions for you. Follow up before we move on to school. So the first one is, you mentioned Devolver. They always make crazy stuff generally. They of course have safe stuff like Cult of the Lamb and things like that, but they tend to kind of do crazy. Is that the kind of stuff you're talking about, or do you mean like even crazier?
I mean, so Devolver has so this is another problem I have with publishers. This is just a me thing, right? But like if we go around the room and we take Cult of the Lamb, like everybody knows who the publisher of Cult of the Lamb is, right? But I think a lot of people would not know what the developer of Cult of the Lamb is. Like,
Right.
What is the
They
name
would
of the
they would
studio?
say Devolver. Devolver made that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that publishers do really well is they actually kind of like steal the audience from us. So the audience attaches
Massive.
to the publisher, right?
Massive monster, by the way.
Mass monster, yeah.
Just
So-
credit
so-
where credit's due.
Right. So the publisher sort of like takes the audience from the developer. So the audience attaches, as they call it, to the publisher. And that means the publisher can then sell that audience back to us. So Devolver sort of like basically landed the entire weird arcade roguelike market. That's just them, right? If it's like kind of funky looking roguelike, 95% certain
Probably
that's
Devolver.
Yeah, that's a Devolver game. Yeah, everyone does
Right.
that.
Raw Fury does a little wilder shit. So it's a little more out there in every direction, but the level of quality of a Raw Fury game fluctuates a bit more than a Devolver game. So a Devolver game, you can generally be sure that Devolver game is well polished to the point of like it just being stable. And yeah, sure, there's issues. Some launches don't hit as well, but they're generally there. Raw Fury will go up and down a bit more, but your chances of getting the thing where you're like, well, I did not expect that. I did not expect to be putting blueprints and have that be engaging. That's a Raw Fury game, right? So each of these publishers sort of like build their own audience instead of letting us build our own audience. And then they basically go like, oh, hey, you're making a roguelike game. Yeah, if you don't sell that to us, I guess good luck finding that audience, huh? So it's like more of a like...
Kind of like
we'll be
not trapping them, but in making it an advantage to stay with them.
Yeah.
right,
It's a little
exactly.
like publisher vampire.
Yeah, basically. And like,
Or
again,
vampire
like this is-
publisher, I guess. Yeah.
I'm from free publishers, right? So I'm a little publisher antagonistic. The publishers know that. I work as a scout with them. I'm on friendly basis with most of them. Like, I don't hate them. But I think that with where we are right now, a lot of pressure of making sure this industry doesn't fall apart entirely is on them. And is on them making decisions that are kind of irrational, right? Like, they need to fund stupid shit, which is not rational. That's a leap of faith. That's a coin flip. But I need them to be taking leap of faiths. Because if they don't make leap of faiths, we can't make leap of faiths. And if we can't make leap of faiths, we're going to get everybody trying to make Balatro for the next 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And love that game, but like, I need publishers to be looking beyond that immediate, like, but that works. It's like, yes, it did. Past tense. It did. Like, Balatro worked in a world where there was no Balatro.
Yeah.
Worse Balatro is not going to work in a world where we have Balatro, right?
Yeah.
And then, please, for the love of God, keep funding us. Like, if it doesn't even have to be if the game sells like shit, keep funding us. The game comes out, 40 people buy it, and the average review rate is like 55%. Just drop us. Fair. Like, we tried. Like, you know, like, we can say we tried. It didn't work. Okay. We deserve that. Like, I've seen games with like good review scores, but they came out a little undercooked, or the publisher didn't have more money. So The developer just had to launch in the state it was in, or like, and I'm seeing this game like, if you give these developers 3 to 6 more months, it'll be fire, right? And they just won't. That scares me. That part scares me. So
Yeah.
All publishers are cowards, in short, and we just need them to. It was called "All Publisher Cowards, Please Return the Coin Flip." That was the full name of the talk. I just need them to flip coins, even if they're very expensive. Coins. They have money. They're rich
on funding.
Yeah, just flip coins. It's like, okay, this is not good. This is not finished, but the developer seems very passionate about it. Go. I have publishers telling me that they will not publish anything that doesn't have a Steam page with 20,000 plus wish lists. I'm like, motherfucker, if I have 20,000 plus wish lists, I don't need you.
Yeah.
What the fuck do I need a publisher if I have 20,000 wish lists? Like, go fuck yourself at that point. But then my favorite part about it, you know what they also go? They'll go to games that done that and they're like, yeah, but like it's going to be a little bit of a tighter ref share because you already announced the game. I'm like, what the fuck do you want?
Wait, what is the logic behind? What's the logic?
Well, publishers love announcing games.
Oh, they love announcing it. That's a boon to them. They want to announce it. Yep. So that's a monetary thing for them.
and not just a little bit, right? I have a game that I signed once, not my own, but for a friend. The only reason I signed that game is because Nintendo came to that publisher with like, hey, we have 2 slots for you, but we need you to fill them both. And the publisher only had 1 game that was going to go on Switch. So they just went through everybody that pitched it and went to the developer and went like, will this run on Switch? And we went like, yeah. And they're like, you're in. That was it. They signed that entire game. They funded that entire game just so they could get into a Nintendo Direct. Because they knew that first game on Switch was going to fucking just nail it.
Just
right?
do well. Yeah.
So the second game there was like, whatever. Like, fuck it. We'll fund it. We'll do some marketing. If it works, it works. If not, we'll blow 10K on marketing and see what happens.
Yeah.
Just as a side question, is there a as far as like getting on to, I don't know, like Game Pass, Nintendo Direct, like or Nintendo's shop, Steam, is there one that's like, if you're on there, you're gonna do better, you have a better chance of doing well?
Do you factor Game Pass into that question, Zeke? Or no?
Yeah, like.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you do Game Pass, you get a big bag of money.
Yeah.
So
that was actually
right.
Here's something I'd love to know. So not only that, but one of the other questions I had is, how does Game Pass factor into this? Is it helping devs? Is it hurting them more than it's helping?
No, Game Pass is good, but Game Pass is also, it's that thing where if the industry becomes too reliant on one thing, I always get nervous. You know? And Game Pass one, it's like in VR right now. If you're doing a VR game, if you can't get meta funding, your game is dead.
Right.
No publisher funds any game that meta doesn't already back. So you have to get your game to meta, convince them that they like it, then go to a publisher with meta likes it, right? Like that's the only way to get funding in all of VR, which is completely messed up. Game Pass was super good for developers for a long time, to the point that I started getting worried about it and I started speaking up about that. But it was very much that Game Pass took very big bets. It was the coin flip. It was the coin flip of the industry. But then what publishers did is they would get a bunch of games. They would take those games. They would turn to Microsoft and go, hey, do you like any of these? And then when Microsoft like, well, that looks like Game Pass material. They would fund that game, take the game to Microsoft, get the Game Pass money, and then just have no risk on their own. So I was like, well, like, I went to developers that had that. I'm like, let me talk to Game Pass then. I'll do it. I won't even need a percentage. I just want publishers to stop fucking doing this. So I ended up talking to Game Pass a bunch of times. But so Game Pass platform money is a very healthy thing in our industry right now, because it's one of the only ways that developers can get prototype funding. There's the Hero project that has both PlayStation and Microsoft investing in territories around the world, like in India and the Middle East, and in other places where it's much harder to get funding. There's some prototype funds that the developers can apply on. And then Nintendo just doesn't give a shit. Nintendo just does Nintendo. They're fine. They're their entire own thing. They're not really like that kind of company. You go to Nintendo and Nintendo will, if you're a good enough developer, Nintendo will let you be a developer, right? And that's fine. Like every company has its own strategy, and I think it's fairly well known how each of these companies kind of relate to each other. But I think ultimately it's good that they're funding, because platforms kind of fund more from a portfolio perspective. So they're not like, oh, we do this genre. They're just like, you know what we're really missing? We're really missing a racing game with... we're missing like roguelike Armageddon. Right? Like
I'm in.
So they're not funding from like, oh, everybody is doing this. They're like, oh, but nobody is doing that.
Right.
That's where they fund. So in that, like, come on, that should be a fucking publisher, right? There should be a publisher that's just funding the weirdest shit. But we don't really have that. Like for every publisher, for most publishers right now, we're at a point where you could see a game and go, oh, that's probably Annapurna. Oh, that's probably Devolver. Or like people know, right? Or like that's kind of not great. Like it would be great if you could look at the game and be like, oh, that's... Remember when Devolver was doing shit like Observation and like stuff like that, where it's just like this weird horror like sci-fi game?
Yeah.
By No Code, because I'm on the developer side, so I always know the developer. I don't always know the publisher. That was great, but I'm seeing less of that, because even Devolver is now publicly traded, so they have to do the thing that makes the most money instead of the thing that...
Yeah.
So, and that makes it about a little counterintuitive, right? Because for Devolver and for publishers, they want nothing more than to have their brand be the first thing on someone's tongue when they say a game. So they're working towards that goal, while you're saying they need to be working against it.
They should
That's like exactly what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they're trying to own a part of our market, which is the healthy thing, but at the same time, it also means that you're playing safer and safer. And that's kind of a shame.
So we've covered 2 of the 3 questions I had, and that actually leads nicely to the third. Are there any publishers you feel are doing it right? Are there any you can point to and be like, yeah, they need to be like this? Not to call anyone out, or just are there any that kind of stand out?
That's a tough one. Like I think there are a lot of publishers that are doing smaller games right now, like that are funding smaller things for less money. Like I want shorter games with worse graphics.
Larion's not a publisher, guys.
Right.
slow down.
Back it up.
Larian, Sven Sebastian, Sven, I love you.
Sven is pretty great, but yeah. What we need is people to basically like drop in 50K on a lot more things, and there's very few publishers that are playing in there. Like everybody is trying to get like, I like to, when I work with teams, I always tell them there's like 3 bands of indie funding, and they're continuously shifting. But there's like the low band, which is like 60 to 120K, and then you've got the medium band, which is 250 to 600 right now, and then the high band, which is 1.2 million plus. That middle part is just dead.
Yeah.
Nobody's funding in the middle. Like that's the part that's dying right now. So either you're making something really fucking large and you've already got 40 to 50% done, which means you are rich, right? You're a super giant, or you're an established indie with a hit game. But even established indies are feeling this squeeze, right? And then there's just like the very small stuff where occasionally something really cool happens, right? Balatro was not a super expensive video game to make, but it was different. It was stubborn. It was its own thing. That's good. Actually, somebody in chat just mentioned something. Outer Sloth is a good example. But they're cheating. Like that's not a publisher. That's I have infinite Among Us money coming in, and
true.
we would just spread
That's
some
true.
of that money to other people. Which I love that. I think it's phenomenal. I wish every indie that made a fuck ton of money would do something like this. But also, we can't rely on very wealthy people.
That's kind of relying on charity. Yeah. That's kind of like, I'm sure everyone will be charitable when they reach that amount of success.
That is true. It is almost like a charity type situation.
So
yeah.
I love Outer Sloth. I love what they're doing. I hope that Outer Sloth lands a number of just like weird hits that make the publishers go, okay, maybe we should do weirder shit, because just angry Arab man yelling on a stage is not going to convince them, but it might make some people think, which
I thought you were pitching a game just now.
right?
I would play that game.
Rami versus the publishers.
No, angry Arab man yells on stage. I would definitely play that. Is FMV?
Oh,
If
wow.
it's FMV, I'll definitely play it.
I didn't
Right.
realize that Outer Sloth was doing Neverway. Zeke,
They're doing a lot.
yeah, I didn't. I just pulled up their Steam, like publisher list, just to see what they were making. Zeke, if you haven't heard of that game, it's kind of right up your alley.
Which game?
Neverway. You might have.
Oh
already
yeah, we
played
saw
it.
this. We saw this at the most recent game
The
show.
Galaxy thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
What? Kind of a side question, I guess, that just spawned Rami. How do you feel about all these like game showcases popping up? Or is
Right,
that is
triple
that
I,
is
stuff
that
like that.
indies trying to fill the
You know,
lack-
Galaxies is run by a couple ex-Twitch people.
Oh, okay. So yeah, like, is that just indies trying to help indies ultimately?
Yeah, publishers, indies, anybody, like on every level of the industry, discoverability is a big issue,
Yeah.
right? Like even for the big ones, like discoverability is even for AAA at this point, discoverability is hard, right? Like just getting people to see your game is the biggest question of our time, and
Right.
there's tons of games coming out, and a lot of them deserve better than what they get in the economy, but like people just don't have more money, right? Like it is what it is. So we're okay with coin flips, right? Like we like that's part of it. Like we know that we're hate the word, but we're entrepreneurs, right? But entrepreneurship just means you buy a coin and you flip it, right? And in our case, the coin is just 2 years of work with a team of 6 people. Like that's part of it. But right, I think a lot of those initiatives are born from desperation and then work, and then they continue to exist, and they kind of get rid of that despair because they work. So a wholesome direct started as a desperate, like, nobody wants to talk about cozy games, right? Nobody wants to talk about wholesome games. Nobody wants to talk. And so they made their own thing. They put it together. And the first times, this was desperate. It was just like, fuck, nobody talks about this. Like, how are we supposed to make it? And then it kind of took off, and it became bigger and bigger, and they sort of lose that desperation. It becomes a strength, right? And that has birthed an entire genre of, honestly, some incredible games, right? There's some really good stuff that is coming out there.
It's that old adage, necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
Right? If we need something, make it.
Right.
Well-
and right now, the problem is that necessity is the mother of doing the same shit as Balatro.
Yeah, well,
Right.
it's
If
funny you
wanna
say
get
that.
funded-
Because look at like what the Galaxy showcases that we just saw, right? So full disclosure, I was sponsored to watch it.
Yeah.
So
watched
I
it as well,
dug in.
it's not-
I dug into it a little bit. I was like, who's running this? The people running it are, ex-Twitch people. They brought this showcase in. They said, okay, we're going to show you 50 games in an hour. Now think about what that means. This ties back to exactly what we were talking about before. Like, we're not going to show you a few games with a ton of resources in it. We're going to show you 50 games, and hopefully one of these is going to be the next Schedule 1. And I mean, when we watched that Galaxy thing, let's be real. There were stretches of that where in a 5-minute period, you'd see 10 games.
Yeah.
And there'd be like barely even gameplay for some of them. It would be like a title drop and then a 3-second animation and then next. That is the definition of a shotgun approach. I mean, these guys are literally going like, we're going to throw everything at your monitor, and hopefully one of these are going to stick to it. And hopefully one of these will be the next Schedule 1. One of these will be the next Pal World. And then we can say that this was shown at the Galaxy Award. So like the Galaxy show. So this show is like a direct response to what we've been seeing in the gaming industry.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons it was actually great and well funded, and we watched, I mean, it was a solid show. Like we didn't see these shows back in the day because, just like Zeke said, we didn't need them. We didn't need these shows because all the money was going to the big shows, the E3s, right? The monolith thing. But just like E3 died, what's happening to AAA gaming? So it's like we're seeing this reorientation of where they see the money coming from our gaming industry, and everything is going to be affected by this, including the shows we watch, the games we play, all of it. So
I'm seeing a conversation happening in chat that I actually do want to sort of respond to, because somebody's saying, like, aren't there enough unique games? And somebody challenged that with, like, well, which? And they said Balatro Blueprints. But between Balatro and Blueprints, can anybody name me like a sort of like interesting game, like a unique thing that came out, right? Like, not just like a cool take on something. Like, when you think about Balatro is a genre-shaking game.
Yeah.
Right? And Blueprints is a genre-shaking game. What's between those? So that's like February 2024 and
April.
now?
Yeah.
About a year and a bit, right? And I mean, like, games that sort of like reach that. There's a bunch, right?
I got one for you, Rami.
Oh God.
No.
Rat Shaker.
Oh God.
God damn it. I knew you were going to say that, you piece of garbage.
Shaking up is in its very nature, Rami.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
A lot of people do. A lot of people do. Yeah.
So,
I want to answer your question, Rami, because you said, like,
go.
You said, no. I mean, I want to get it more defined. The question you're asking. You said, what are the games that are
genre shaking?
They're not Balatro or Blueprints, but they are still genre shaking.
That would be Like a Dragon, Pirates in Hawaii.
Yes.
You are welcome. For the record, that answers your question succinctly and directly.
That was it.
You're welcome. Okay. Anyway, next question.
Yeah. What came out between them?
Split Fiction.
Lethal Company, which came. Okay. You know what? I love Split Fiction. I love.
But it is based on It Takes Two, I guess. Yeah.
You know what the harshest feedback I've ever heard on any video game. I've never heard a game. Again, I love this game. I love Joseph.
Oh man, he's really building this up. This is going to be good.
A kid played that game, put it down after like 4 minutes, and went, "So this is Roblox. What's special about it?"
Yeah,
fair.
I feel like that
fair.
generation's actually coming in the next like 10 years.
Dude,
the Roblox kids are gonna finally be like 18 to 30.
Y'all, I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and 2 of them play Roblox.
Yep.
Right.
Y'all would have your mind blown if you knew how many of your favorite games have been directly recreated in Roblox, and that now young kids are playing them, having no idea they're even experiencing the classics that we love. And what's hilarious is what you just said has happened to me. In fact, my community can tell you, because Rowan has run down and watched me playing the games and be like, "Oh, you're playing that insert Roblox name. Oh, you're playing Powerhead 3. That's cool." And I'm just like, this is Path of Exile 2. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I played that upstairs today." And it's just like, they're doing every genre. There's some cool Roblox games where I was like, shit, this would make a pretty badass game I've never played before. Like, there's a lot of really, like, it's wild. It's wild.
Yep.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Roblox is not a game. It is a game development platform. And people have left the game industry to make Roblox games and then make tons of money off them because they intelligently find out how to put in the microtransactions, which is essentially what it runs on. But like, it's wild, man. From a game dev perspective, Roblox is wild.
Yep. But yeah, basically a sequence of platforming challenges. Yeah, no, we know that one. And I was like, oh, that hurt my heart, but also, like, it is entirely true. Like, like Split Fiction is, but it's not genre shaking.
Yeah.
Right. It is a very good iteration. It's polished. It's beautiful. The narrative we can argue about that. I liked it. I thought their use of mechanics was clever. Like, I thought it was pretty good. But ultimately, it's an iteration, right?
Yeah. I felt like with Split Fiction, the final 30 minutes is really where it's like, oh, this is some good shit. Like, this is some actual insane. The rest of it is all great leading up to that, but the final is like, holy fucking shit, that's big.
Someone in chat said Expedition 33 might shake up the genre. I mean, it could shake up its genre, but it's basically a JRPG. like at heart.
Right.
But I mean, it's it's got some action mechanics and things, but that's an iteration. That's what Rami's talking about. It's an iteration.
I think
trying to be that
one.
different.
I think like 1 year and a month is a bit long. I would like for everybody to just be able to like name off 4 to 5 games that is like, oh, that shit was fire.
Yeah.
And we're just not getting that, and they don't have to be super successful. That's not the point. We don't need these games to be monster hits. We just need them because that's how new stuff happens. It's like somebody does something and it kind of feels like when you look at my career, like when I did Nuclear Throne, right? Nuclear Throne is not by any standard a defining game for the roguelike genre, right? Like from the audience perspective, it did okay. It did for me, it did great. But it's not a game that if you go like what top 5 action roguelikes, people will not often name Nuclear Throne, right? Nuclear Throne was based on a partially inspired by Spelunky, which was a genre-shaking game, and a game called Action Fist, which was a little top-down action roguelike kind of game. That's like 10, 15 years old by now. Bo Blythe did that, who later did Samurai Gun. We basically took that and made Nuclear Throne. We made our own like iteration on that, and Nuclear Throne was kind of notable because it was of its kind. It was sort of like the first top-down shooty roguelike, right? Then after us, we did okay with that game, but Enter the Gungeon, the team that worked on that, was very inspired by Nuclear Throne. In fact, came to me when they started on the game to be like, "Hey, we're basically just want to make a take on Nuclear Throne. Are you not going to be pissed off?" Because obviously we were very pissed off about Ridiculous Fishing getting actually stolen. But they showed us an early version of that game with like the way the combat flows and like the cover and all that stuff. We're like, no, mate, y'all good. Like this is so different from Nuclear Throne that I am not worried about it. Like go do your thing. Enter the Gungeon
Speaking
became
as someone who's played both, I absolutely see the inspiration, but the feel is completely different.
Right. But that's the thing, right? Like you can even see it in like the shape of the bullets to a degree that they were looking at, sort of like, okay, how did Nuclear Throne do some of this? But then they made it their own. It's their own game. It's their own take. It has their own tempo, its own feel. And that blew up the shooty roguelike genre, right? After Enter the Gungeon, that was the big one. So, I've never been in the business of like monster hits. That's not what we do. At Vlambeer, what we did is we just made weird shit. We made like, oh, hey, this airplane feels cool to fly. Let's make that. And then because we were early, we got to build that audience, and we had an audience of our own. But most developers now, they come up, their audience is immediately sucked up by a publisher. Their revenues are sucked up by a publisher. And at the end of their first game, they're left with nothing.
Well, not only that, but their name is too. Like,
right?
Who made this game? Devolver.
Yeah.
No, Devolver didn't make it.
Yeah.
So, these are things that worry me. Like, I don't think they're going to tank the games industry. Like, we're not in a good place, right? Like, but we're stubborn as shit. Like, we're going to be making video games, and we're going to be making weird shit. And there's going to be new people coming up that don't need money to do this. Like, that all happens, right? That's all. Like, that's going to continue to happen. Like, you can't kill the games industry. But we can do a lot of damage to it. And the weird thing is we're doing it ourselves. Like, it's the games industry hurting the games industry at this point. This is not an audience issue. It's not like people aren't spending enough money on video games. People are. I found a link the other day that allows you to see all the money you spend on Steam. I wish I hadn't found that link. That was terrifying. I just pressed that. I'm like,
it's been floating around for a while. Yeah.
Did not want that.
I saw my favorite.
I'm just kidding. I do my taxes every year, so I know exactly how much I spend.
My favorite rendition of how much money I've spent on Steam was someone who opens up CS:GO boxes, finding out how much money they spent on Steam, and it was like 20 or 30,000 on games, and then 50 to 60,000 on boxes.
Oh God. Ugh.
So, yeah. Don't go looking for that unless you're ready for some bad news potentially.
You can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
Little dated reference for you old folks out there. There you go.
Yep.
Anyway.
So like somewhere between 4,000 and 7,000 per year for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God. Anyway, you know that money could really help an indie game come true.
It's true. It's true.
That's it. We don't
Well,
need
that's
that much.
and for a while, like Kickstarter was the answer, right? And then now to
Uh,
Kickstarter,
little
you
bit,
have to
yeah.
have like you have to already be a success before you announce your Kickstarter.
Basically,
In a lot of
Kickstarter
ways.
is also very pay to win nowadays. It's kind of crazy, but like
Mhm.
if you want, like the companies you work with that do like Kickstarter marketing, you effectively need your 20,000 wish lists to
Yeah.
do a Kickstarter. At which point,
Well,
that's
now
1,000 guaranteed copies. but-
isn't the thing now to announce that you're going to Kickstart to get people to
Right.
go to the webpage to
Park the page.
park the
Notify
page,
me.
so then when the Kickstarter gets announced, it has that massive influx of day one, which then pipes into the algorithm and gets the press releases and gets people talking about, oh, day one, this game made X amount, right?
Have you all noticed this thing in the developer community? We've realized that sending people to do wish lists is actually not great.
Is it not great now?
No,
Explain
it's not
that.
great. It's not bad, but it's not great. Wish lists actually decay over time. So if you wish list a game, if you do it right before launch, if you do it right before a specific moment, it has a much higher effect than if you were a wish list 3 months ago. So if there is a wish list,
For what
the value
components?
of that wish list goes down. On your rankings, on your like most anticipated.
When you say
like,
when you say they decay over time, you're talking about because people are unwishlisting them or closing their accounts, right?
no, it's just the value of that wish list becomes lower in the algorithm.
Algorithmically, the value.
Oh, I see
yeah.
what you're saying.
So
Okay.
if 100,000
So you're saying
people,
a game that gets 80,000 wish lists in a year, that exact same 80,000 wish list is going to be worth more than a game that got 80,000 wish lists over 5 years.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So the problem with that is if a game gets announced and gets 100,000 wish lists off of that announcement, by the time the game comes out, that's worth far less. And there's two things that are very valuable about wish lists. One is it puts us up on the rankings, right? Which is important. But B, Steam fests are basically multipliers for your wish lists.
Yeah.
So the more wish lists you have, the more wish lists you gain. So what is now the current understanding of things is you want everybody to come in for a wish list in as short of a period as possible. That blows you to the top of the ranking. Then do Steam Next Fest immediately. That multiplies that forward and then go to launch within 2 weeks.
Gotcha. Okay, that explains a lot
There you go.
for release
That's
structure.
very much how. And so we're just continuously like trying to game Steam, and then
So
every
wait,
time
is
we
this-
figure it out, Steam changes it.
Is
Yeah.
this some weird situation? Yeah, because I was going to say, like, I've never heard a dev be like, hey, Steam Next Fest is coming up, unwishlist our game and then wishlist it again. Like, does that matter? Does that
Right.
count? Like,
No. In fact, what we're trying to do now is most developers are trying to pull people into their Discord.
Oh, that makes sense.
Ah.
Have
Instead
a
of
marketing connection. Yeah.
So have a place where we can then tell people, okay, hey, if y'all haven't wishlisted, please wishlist now and put the action, the sort of like what we call an activation,
The new mailing
have
list.
the activation as close as possible to our next fest. So it's weird. The whole thing is weird. We're continuously gaming shit. We're continuously trying to figure stuff out. But
That
Yeah.
sucks.
Who would think developers would try to figure out algorithms? Big surprise there that they try to figure out how shit works.
oh
No,
no,
listen. This was a very small comment from Rami. Like, I mean, not a small comment, but like just in passing, I asked him a question, and that question was, "How do you price your games?" This was years ago,
Yeah,
and he
right.
goes, "I don't know. You kind of just feel it," and that really like stuck with me. Like, oh, so developers are kind of fucking not. They don't know what's going on either. They're just kind of like, okay, let's throw this number at it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And that just carried me through a bunch of like, well, they don't know either. Like it's kind of a fucking crapshoot all the time.
I mean, I think that's where. Go ahead, Rami. Go ahead.
we're good at one thing sometimes, which is making video games, right? And that depends on the video game. Like, there's games that you make that just happen. There's games that you make where you're like 3 weeks from launch, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? right? And I've done both in my career, right? Like I've been in both of those projects, but we don't know. We don't know. We start on a game and we're like, oh, it's gonna be that, and then halfway through we're like, oh, it's not that. Oh, we got it wrong. Well, fuck. Can we fix it? And then we try and fix it. Like, this is not just indies. This is AAA. This is everybody. You know, Warren Spector.
Yeah. You mean
I had a chat with
fellow
him.
Drop
We-
Frames?
We interviewed him.
Yeah, fellow Drop Frames host, Warren
Have you-
Spector.
Have
That
you
Warren
ever
Spector.
Have you ever asked Warren Spector about budgets and timelines?
No, we didn't have that long on the show.
I asked him once, right? Deus Ex, Epic Mickey. I asked him once, like, Warren, how did you all do this before, right? Like, how did you ship all these games on time and on budget? And he looks at me and he goes, mate, I've never shipped a game on time or budget. That's the games industry. We
Yeah.
don't fucking know. We don't know. We're just trying stuff, right? And sometimes it's good.
Now, let me ask you a
Sometimes-
broader question.
Yeah.
Has any game ever been on time and on budget?
Barely any. Barely any. No, genuinely no. I think most publishers, when they sign a game, they already have like a 20% like, it's going to be late.
It's going to be late. Yeah.
Uh,
They just have
you
a
have-
buffer period.
And,
Well,
and,
it's
and
becoming the same with like anticipation of games. It's like
Right.
this AAA game announced coming out this day, and we're all like, "No, it's not.
yeah.
No, it's not.
There's
No,
no
it's
way.
it's coming out maybe next year. You
Yeah.
say
Right.
6 months from now? That means 18 months probably.
Yeah. No, but
Yeah.
that's how it is. Like we okay, but to be fair, we do know that. It's just somewhere in the system it was locked for that date and they can't pull out
Yeah.
of the thing anymore. So we're just gonna do the thing. And then we'll deal
Right.
with the consequences later.
Yeah.
Because Cheryl,
Yeah, better to ask forgiveness than permission.
yeah, well, I'm getting a feeling that most people are kind of done with the forgiveness at this point, which they're not wrong.
Yeah,
That's a whole nother. That's our shit, Rami. You leave that alone.
No,
We've got our own problems in our space.
Y'all do your thing. Y'all do your thing. Like, influencers, streamers have been such a funny space because right now we develop with like third audiences is like a phrase.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like your first audience, which is your players, and then you have your second audience, which is people watching players, and then you have your third audience, which is people that talk to players that watch players.
Sure.
And it's like we have to develop our games with third audiences in mind. Sort of like, okay, so if we make a game and somebody is not playing it,
Is it
but
fun
they
to
have
watch?
a friend who's playing it, is it fun to describe watching the game?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
y'all have done some weird shit to this industry. I have to admit, like it's pretty great because developing for streaming is actually really good. You think better about UI, you think better about communication, you think better about like spacing and tempo, and like I actually really, I think you've been great for the industry in that regard. In terms of like stupid shit we have to do.
What about developing for bitrate? Rami, does that factor to not put too much shit on your screen to where it just looks like a mess on a...
I have to get my dog real quick. Give me a second.
Fair. I didn't know you
Wait a
got
minute,
it.
he
I
doesn't
want to
own
hear
a
all about
dog?
your dog when you get back. I have not heard about your new pet. Yeah, didn't know that was-
Let me draw it real quick.
Yeah, or that's another one. Skitcher in chat says, thinking of the UI for streamer camera placement.
There we
Yeah.
go.
I mean, it used to be that just pause menus was the hardest shit you were going to program. Like,
Yeah.
pause menus are the hardest thing you're going to program. But now, like, dealing with all the streamer shit is its own thing. Yeah, it's pretty
I
great.
wonder if Twitch has ever like done. I'm sure it exists somewhere, but I wonder if there's a heat map for camera placement across Twitch that then gets like sent to a developer or a publisher, or like that information exists somewhere for someone that's really banking on like streamers pushing their game. That's probably a AAA thing.
Streamer-centric games. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, for like a streamer-centric game.
Yeah.
It's got to exist somewhere.
It's probably very expensive.
Yeah. I don't know where all this. Where did we? It's been an hour. It's almost two.
Yeah,
where,
do we
where
start that with one question, maybe?
Where do I think
Did we answer?
I think it. I think Rami actually brought us full circle. Well, I'm glad you've been doing good, Rami. I'm glad you've been doing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been good times. The life of Croatia was lovely. Besides the doom and gloom, it was nice weather, and I just came back yesterday or 2 days ago by now.
Fantastic.
And yeah, just good times over here.
Fantastic.
Well, hold on. What was that you did in Croatia?
The conference.
The conference,
I
yeah.
wanted to do the keynote at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm still going to do that keynote somewhere. I haven't figured out where yet, but like I at some point I have to do the all publishers are cowards.